Okay, we got the picture-in-picture going. Dottie's on board with me. We got the new microphone going, Bluetooth. So those are good things that are good news, but let me show you the bad news here. You might have seen my short. I'm going to drive around here and show you something very significant to me in camp. And what you're looking at there where that carpet is, that is where Darrell used to be. Darrell is renting a house for a short-term rental up in Lake Havasu, and he left today for that. I'll see, we'll see him again. We'll visit him up there. He's got spare bedrooms. We'll have a lot more fun with Darrell. But I tell you, it makes a big difference when you're living with someone in camp every day for a long period of time, and they leave. It's a good friend. It can be. It's painful. In fact, I'm going to say it's for me so far the hardest part of being a nomad is saying goodbye to people that you spend time with and you get to know, and the people that get to be a daily presence in your life, a neighbor for more than a few days. It's hard, tough stuff when they leave. And this one, this hit me harder than usual. I met Darrell in Utah a couple of years ago. I had spent the summer, 2 summers ago, I'd been a camp host up for the Army Corps of Engineers up in far north Idaho. And I was on my way down. I think where I was headed was I headed to Quartzsite? I was either headed to Quartzsite or Pahrump. I can't remember. Or I could have been headed to New Mexico to a meetup. I can't remember. But I was on my way south, and I stopped in Hurricane. Not Hurricane, Utah. And why did I stop in Hurricane? Well, there's a very special reason for that. Because one of my favorite YouTube channels is Matt's Off-Road Recovery. Was a tow company that does he goes rigs that he takes off-road to recover people that are out four-wheeling and get stuck, and people that get stuck off. He does plenty of regular towing, but he has a specialty part of his business where he does difficult off-road and technical recoveries, and he films them, him and his crew, and I love everything about them. And they are, guess what? They are headquartered and work out of Hurricane, Utah. So I found an RV park there, and I knew that they had a little shop that you can go to buy like their swag. And sometimes I know that they'll let people into the shop and introduce you, but that's not a for sure thing. But I wanted to check it out. So I stayed there, and I went to the shop, and very nice woman, I think Maddie was her name, who runs the office, said, everybody is out on recovery now, but would you like to go back and see the shop? And I was like, oh my God, yes. So she took me back there and took pictures of me, but they were working on this, like the mass they called the world's biggest off-road recovery tow truck. That was in there. They did a beautiful restoration of a very old antique Jeep, which is a whole nother story. And I got my picture taken with that. And I was just thrilled. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm staying in this RV park, and I'm liking the area, so I'm extending my stay a few days. And I'm out walking Dottie, and this woman kind of follows me back to my rig and says, excuse me, I don't mean to be weird, but I got a question for you. And I said, sure. And she says, I am training to be a hot air balloon pilot, and we have a flight tomorrow, and I'm short on crew. if you would agree to come and be crew, the next day, Sunday, I can arrange for you to have a free hot air balloon flight. And she went on explaining it, and I said, you had me at hot air balloon. I'll do it. So that's a whole nother story. I ended up hating being in a hot air balloon. I was terrified. It was not comfortable at all. But she later said, hey, there's another guy here that I know that I've become friends with. He's going to come with us. His name is Darrell. So that's how I met Darrell. And Darrell and I did the hot air balloon thing, crewed together. We went out the next day and took our rides. And then the woman who introduced us had appointments the next week. And I really wanted to go to Zion National Park. And I asked him, hey, you want to go with me? He's like, yeah. So we spent the whole day in Zion and bonded, became good friends. The three of us went four-wheeling for a whole day in an area called Sand Hollow. And so anyway, that's how I met Darrell. And after I left there and ended up in Quartzsite, I badgered him shamelessly to come down and camp with us in Quartzsite. And he finally came down, and he met my friend Jim from Canada, and they became very close friends. And the rest is history. Darrell is from West Virginia, and you know, you hear this phrase, people, like the guy that'll give your shirt off his back, he absolutely will. He will strip that sucker off and hand it to you without even thinking about it. That's the kind of man he is. And the number of people that he's helped and with an open heart and expecting nothing in return since I've known him, just remarkable. It gives you renews faith in mankind. Anyway, we're here and we made it to Quartzsite. You heard the story of how I met Darrell and how sad it is at the end of the season when people start leaving. Even though I know I'm going to see Darrell again, he's not far away. He's in Havasu for probably the next 2 months. I know I'm going to see him more than once. It's just not the same when he's not here every day. You know, and he's a good cook. He'd feed me a lot. I'm going to miss that. But Jim will be back Saturday. Jim reminded me, you know, when I was telling Jim how sad I was when Darrell left. He reminded me, he goes, I'm still here. And he is. Jim's the same friggin' way. The same way. I'm going to call them SOBs. Shirt off your back, guys.
All right, it looks like I'm still working the bugs out for the new audio equipment. And it almost seemed on the first, up until now, the first part of the video, driving into town, it was clear enough, but I think that the microphone was so sensitive that I had it by my seatbelt, and I think it was picking up the sound of it rubbing up against the seatbelt. So I put it on the outside of my jacket, and hopefully that little annoying sound will go away, and I will have learned a lesson. If not, this is going to be another little difficult video with a challenging sound, but I promise I will figure out how to dial it in. So I got my propane, I got some cold cuts at the Family Dollar, and I'm headed back to camp. And before I got the propane, I was talking about Darrell and talking about Jim and the story of how I met Darrell. And, you know, it's just, you make these friendships on the road that are just pretty remarkable. I mean, it's, you know, in real life, in regular life, what happens is you might meet somebody new, you might meet somebody at work, but you know, there's a limited amount of time that you're going to be spending with them unless it's someone that happens to be a neighbor. Well, in nomad life, you have neighbors that turn over quite a bit, you know, as you move from place to place. And when you get to know people, you often get to know them in a camp. We call them, you know, when more than one of us are together, there's 2 or more people camping, we call it a camp. Even though it's not a formal camp, but we refer to it as camp. like I'm not going home now, I'm going back to camp. You end up building a deeper and relationship faster than you normally would, because you're spending so much time in each other's presence. I don't mean like you're joined at the hip 24 hours a day, but you're right next to the person, you're around and you're interacting with them every day, and you're really getting to know them. And you really get to know someone when you work on solving RV problems with them. And if you camp with anybody for any length of time, you will spend a lot of time solving RV problems. And people's real personalities come out. They really do when you're solving RV problems, because it can be challenging and frustrating and unexpected and frustrating and joyous and all those things. But it's just a different kind of accelerated way of getting to know people. And it's not all good. I mean, it's not all, I wouldn't quite say it that way. What I mean to say is sometimes you're camping with someone and you find out you're not each other's cup of tea. And so you find that out fairly quickly too. And I don't mean anything dramatic at all. I just mean like, hey, this is a person I'm simpatico with. But it really pays off when I run into people like Darrell and Jim that I really connect with, and Tim. Let's not forget Tim. But Tim's been with me so long on this journey, and it's easy to forget, take him for granted. But I'll tell you, Tim will leave before me very likely in March, and I'll have a short of Tim pulling away, and it won't be easy for me. That's for friggin' sure. And I think that's one of the reasons, towards the end of last summer, I would talk about my longing for Quartzsite. And it's true that there are things that I love about Quartzsite, but what I really long for is the connections with the people that come out to Quartzsite every year. And here's another one, Denny. I showed you, there was a video a week ago, Debbie and Deb left just temporarily, really, for a month. And that was really hard watching them drive away. And it's hard not having them next to me in camp and seeing him every morning and seeing her every day. But they'll be back. And I'm hoping they'll be back sooner than a month. Anyway, we will see if the audio's any better with this thing clipped to the outside instead of in that seat belt. So, I welcome any comments that you have on feedback, things out of focus, dirty lenses, bad, problematic sound. It's not like I'm going to go reshoot any videos, but I certainly will take the feedback to try to do better on the next video. I'm sure you can all tell I don't spend a lot of time either preparing or editing videos. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd do one video a week or something, even of that. Because this has not yet become work for me. This is just fun and pleasure, and I want to keep it that way. And I think if I start taking it too seriously and have grand intros and fade in and fade out and fancy editing, it won't be fun anymore, and I probably won't continue to do it. And I actually know how to do all that stuff. For a while I had a professional video service where I did things like special events and weddings and advertisements for local businesses, and I did very serious video editing, and I had a expensive Sony camera, which I still have, that I have not pulled out of its case for probably several years, but I can't bring myself to part with it. But it's a great camera But in a lot of ways, this phone does as good, if not a better job. And all I have to do is take this out of my pocket. With the other one, you got to set it up. You got to take it out, put things together, and assemble them, put them on a tripod, and blah 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 blah. It's a real production. So I am back at camp, and I'm really curious to see how the audio does on this one. And one of the things that I'm thinking about now, I'm not going to know whether this audio is off the phone's microphone or this microphone. Let me do a little test here. I'll take the little windscreen off, and if it's off this microphone, if I tap my fingernail on this, you'll hear it really clearly. If it's off the microphone off the phone, I won't hear that at all. That's my theory. That's what I'm thinking, and that's what I believe, and that's what I'm sticking with. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.